right? On that note, this particular dialogue will be between Alok Patnia from Tax Mantra and the Singaporean partners, Kenneth and his partner as well. So, I would invite all three of these gentlemen on stage, and of course, as I always say, please ask tough questions. If you have questions around how can Singapore save taxes for you, if you have questions around how IP is more respected in Singapore, if you have taxes around how to literally just register your company in Singapore, whatever, just ask these guys. Please do. Thank you very much. Alok and Kenneth, the stage is all yours. Come guys. All right, everyone probably is sleeping, but I'll start with that.
I think Kenneth and Jerald will first start with a little bit of presentation, and then we can take a Q&A later. I think then we can do a dialogue. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can just do the presentation and then I will help you.
Hi, is everyone okay?
Hello.
How's lunch? Yeah, okay, basically, right, what to really expect when you are in Singapore to kick off a business. I believe everyone is very interested to have a base in Singapore, and particularly is why Singapore. Okay, over the last 50 years, since we gained our independence in 1965, Singapore effectively have a very stable government, and our policies are very, very transparent. In return, we also have a very extensive free trade agreement where having a Singapore registered company allows you to actually take advantage of these free trade agreements when you go overseas from Singapore to maybe other countries like Australia, UK, or even US, or even into China, where you can take advantage of this free trade agreement as a Singapore company to give yourself a better trading advantage. Yeah, these are some of our rankings in terms of the business environment for 2017. 2018 is not yet end, so we don't have the latest. So in summary, actually, based on with a stable government and with a very good strategic location, Singapore is actually is in between the east and the west. So you can actually have a regional office or regional HQ in Singapore to actually build up your base with the east midwest business opportunities. Okay, now actually this is the main topic which we can actually focus on. The requirement for registration of a company in Singapore. Basically, you need a minimum one shareholder is required, regardless of your nationality. You can probably hold a UK citizenship, US citizenship, or even Indian citizenship, and you can be the 100% shareholder in Singapore. There's no restriction on foreigners being full shareholders. You didn't have to part away your shares. I believe many of you have great ideas. You do not want to part away your business, so you can own 100% shareholding in Singapore. But you need one local resident director. As a foreigner, you can also act as a director in Singapore, but the government requires you to have minimum one local resident director. Reason being is, this local resident director will be responsible for your activities in Singapore. And obviously, you need minimum at least one company secretary, because this company secretary will have to get your company compliance filing done up, and also a lodgement of any changes to your company business profile. Obviously, the payout capital in Singapore is very low. You just need $1 to set up a company. And of course, local registered office is required, and this local registered office address, you can't have it as a residential address. You have to use a commercial office address. So technically speaking, why we need this address is meant for government correspondence, receiving letters, and even you can send your bank letters to this registered address. And last but not least, we have a very fast incorporation, and our record was we can get this done within 60 minutes if everything is smooth.
So that's our record internal when we created our
yeah, just between me and Alok, when we created our joint venture, TM Pass in Singapore, we can get it done within 60 minutes.
Any question on this part, on registration part?
What about
Yeah.
the visas?
Okay, we will come to that later. Yeah.
Sorry, the lady.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ananya. My question is how popular is the co-working spaces in Singapore, because we need a commercial address to start there.
So let's answer that in a Q&A. I was just thinking about any Q&A on this part, on the registration part.
This is registered because we need a registered
Okay,
office.
for the co-working space, right? The local registered address, if you sign up with us, we will provide you our office address as your corresponding address. As for co-working space, you can rent it with a local landlord, and definitely they will give you a preferential rate. And we do have some collaborations with the local landlords, and they can give you a special rate also. But if you want to save on cost, you can actually have a Singapore presence in Singapore, a Singapore company, and you can actually work from your back-end operation in India. Just that all your corresponding address, we will provide you this corresponding address because it's compulsory from day one you started a company.
I just want to add on this. So registered office and nominee director service is something which we provide internally. I think we missed on
Yes,
that point.
yeah, we also provide internally also.
Yeah. So you don't have to go anywhere.
Yes, gentlemen, yeah.
Sure. Hi, I'm Dr. Bhaskar. Ananya, this is a response to your question. We run an organization which is registered in Singapore. So co-working spaces is almost the same scenario as in India. You have a lot of co-working spaces even available in Singapore. But for registering an organization, you don't need a co-working space. So the company secretary usually takes care of your working space, and they'll give you a registered address. And you can look for a co-working space based on your availability. Like Kenneth was mentioning, usually what happens is we use Singapore as a base. You might not have an operational office there all the time. So you'll have the majority of operations happening either of India or some other places. You'll have a small team, maybe one or two people. They don't need an office as such. Usually it's taken care of with secretary services.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Any more questions on these slides? Okay, I think after you register a company in Singapore, I think everyone's concern is paying taxes, especially when we make profits. So I think in Singapore, we are really one of the lowest of tax rate in Asia. I never say in the world, because I think some of you will challenge me in terms of tax havens like BVI, Caymans. But let me give you a side scenario which Alok isn't informed also. If you really competent in BVI or in Caymans, I think you need to have a lot of reporting to be done. With with OECDs requiring for this CRS, which is Common Reporting Standards, or if you have dealings with US, you may also need to report for FATCA. So these are something which is beyond your control. But in Singapore, yes, we still need to report to these two reporting. But if you are a non-financial institution, then your worry, your concern is not much here. So back to the corporate tax in Singapore. We have a flat tax rate of 17% for corporate tax. But in India, it's like 28%.
Effective is 27.5.
Yes, correct. So I think we are still lower, and not only we confine ourselves to within the 17% corporate tax rate, we do have tax exemption for new startups for the first 3 years. And even after your 3 years, if let's say you have grown into a bigger company, we are also giving, the government is also giving you partial tax exemption after your first 3 years. That means from the 4th year onwards. And meanwhile, right, even when you start off, I believe not every organization is smooth sailing. Some may incur losses. So let's say for your first 2 or 3 years, you incur your corporate losses, you can carry forward your losses to offset for future profits. So for instance, you may have suffered losses for 3 years. On your 4th year, 5th year, 6th years, you start making profit, you can just offset it.
Yeah. I have a
Yeah.
question. For corporate losses, for corporate losses, so traditionally every startup goes through loss cycle before they make profit, right? So the intention of my question is, we are a US company, but we are also starting to look at India as a market to make money. So it's a unique situation where we are thinking that whatever we had at the cost center now is going to make money. So we want to go to a neutral place where we can collect money from all parties. So we make that more the parent hub. So now the question I have is, because a lot of funding has happened there and a lot of losses have already happened in the US entity, if I actually incorporate this, can I actually transfer those losses over from the US entity
Okay,
to this?
you can't really transfer your corporate losses from another overseas territories into Singapore. What I mean the corporate losses here is, this is related to a Singapore registered entity.
So, follow-up question. When you acquire a company, whether it's a Singapore-based company, let's say acquires another company, they also acquire all the liabilities, right? So, can't they acquire losses? Don't they acquire losses versus
Okay,
liabilities?
because in Singapore there are some tax criteria to fulfill, and for corporate losses, if you change your shareholders, then definitely the inland revenue may not allow you to carry forward your tax losses in this way.
So let me add a perspective to this. Your profitability and taxability will be on the standalone basis. So the consolidation happens only for reporting. So in Singapore, if you have an entity and you acquire the US entity, you do a consolidation in Singapore because Singapore is a holding company, but still the profits which you have in Singapore, you pay taxes on that because you really cannot offset the losses which you have in US to offset with the loss in Singapore. Even though for consolidation, for disclosure purpose, the group can be at loss. For example, Walmart says that for 18 months, their profitability go down and the overall group profitability go down. That doesn't mean that because of the Flipkart's loss, they would save taxes in the US. Get my point? So the taxes is all only on standalone basis. It's only for the disclosure purpose, you have a consolidation.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on this corporate tax? Okay. Yeah, basically I will show you some comparison between Singapore and India on startup. So for instance, if you were to incorporate a company, let's say on 1st July next month, and your first financial year will be 30th June next year. What I meant is you take advantage. There is no hard and fast rule on that. Your accounting year has to be 30th June. You can even incorporate in 1st August, and to take full advantage, your first accounting year can be on 31st July. That means you take full 12 months advantage of this tax system. So on your financial year 2018 chargeable, or should I say financial year 2019 chargeable income before tax, you'll be, let's say your profit is $1 million. So do you qualify as a tax exemption for a new startup? Is yes, for the first 3 years. As for in India, I think you only qualify if a certificate is obtained from the IMD.
So that's an additional certificate which you require if you want to have tax exemptions. So inter-ministerial board which gives you an additional certificate to startups, then only they are exempt for taxation. Otherwise, those other exemptions are very standard under the startup India policy. In Singapore, you have a blanket
yes.
tax exemption irrespective of any startup. So once you
yes,
register,
for the first 3 years.
First 3 years you really don't pay any taxes.
So under the Singapore taxation law, for your first 3 years, you have a tax exemption for up to 125,000. So based on the table, let's say you make a $1 million profit. So your first 100,000, you'll be exempted off 75%. So you enjoy up to $75,000 of tax exemption on your profits. Then your subsequent 100,000 is at 50%, which is up to 50,000. So a total of 125,000 exemptions for a $1 million profit. So based on $1 million after your tax exemptions, your chargeable income will be 875,000. Based on this amount, you'll be taxed at 17%. You pay only like 149,000 Singapore dollars. Effective tax rate is close to 14.9% actually. It's not really at 17% because of the exemptions.
17% is the flat maximum.
Yes, correct.
But you still have, you can have lower tax
Yes,
rate.
we can go lower than 17% at times due to these exemptions. And during good financial budget years, the finance minister may announce tax rebates. That means, for instance, for last year 2017, if I were to make based on this amount, actually I pay even lower than this. There's a 50% exemption capped at 25,000. Instead of paying 149,000, I pay only 124,000 of tax only. Any questions?
So this is a India comparison when with a similar income, you end up paying a tax of 27.82. We assume that the startup doesn't have any exemption certificate from the government. So with a similar income, if you see the taxes comes to around 27.82.
Okay, after the first 3 years of the tax exemption, Yeah, ma'am, you have a question?
Yeah, what if we have the tax exemption? Because India also has a tax exemption now.
So the challenge is that, and as I stated, that in Singapore, every startup is a startup. In a sense that every company which is registered, irrespective of it has a certificate or not, it will get the tax exemption. In India, close to only 100 startups have got that exemption because there is an additional certificate which you require, which is called IMB certificate. It's from Inter-Ministerial Board. And they are a group of ministers who actually sit on a quarterly basis to decide whether this startup should have a tax exemption or not. So that's the difference.
Yeah, for this, it's a way different. You just have to do your own election and do a declaration. Obviously, you do a false declaration, there will be penalty fines. But you do a true declaration, then nothing will happen. You still qualify for the tax exemption. So for example 2 we are touching on is, after 3 years, what do you get? You still get exemption, but on a partial exemption status. So as let's get back to this company. You incorporated on 1st July 2012, which is many years ago. And your upcoming financial year is this year, 30th June. So you have been in operation for 6 years. So your profit is still 1 million. Do you qualify for any partial tax exemption? Yes. Although you're in your 6th year of business. And in my next slide, we will carry on the example.
Yeah.
For this partial tax exemption, you qualify up to 102,000. And this is how the calculation works. And after deducting or after calculating the tax exemptions, your chargeable income before tax is at 898,000 most. And at 17%, you pay at 153,000 the most. It's at 15.3%. That's only a gradual increase of 0.4%. But as per Indian law, there isn't any partial tax exemption.
There is no partial tax exemption. So this is a comparison in crux in a sense that the effective rate for the first 3 years in Singapore is 14.88. In India, if you do not have IMB certificate, then it's 27.82. And then even for the partial tax, in India there is no partial tax as such.
Yeah, in Singapore we have actually.
And also in India, the startup tax exemption is only up to first 3 years. That is also something which we want to do.
Well, wait, any questions on the corporate tax structures? Okay, so then it's down to the GST, which is a very hot topic, I mean, in India and also basically in Singapore also. Currently, we are still one of the lowest, well, this round in the world, because you can go as high as 25-30% in some other countries. In India, it's 18% to 28%. Yeah, but in Singapore, we are still at a flat 7%. And in Singapore, basically, not only we have flat 7%, if you are having outbound sales, actually the GST rate is 0%. And for certain services, it's still you can get exempted status also for GST. And in Singapore, if your revenue in any one of the financial year, once you hit a $1 million Singapore dollar, it's compulsory, it's mandatory by the law to register for GST. If you wish to register voluntarily, even if you do not have $1 million revenue in any financial year, you still can voluntarily register yourself, but with terms and conditions, and you stay on minimum 2 years criteria.
Yeah, so in India, the GST is still very new. It's been almost 12 months now, and it's getting simplified, it's getting more simpler in the sense that government is bringing in more regular changes. The main difference between the GST in Singapore and India would be the flat rate of 7%. In India, we have different slabs, plus the filing due dates. So in Singapore, you were saying that you really don't need to file on monthly basis?
Yeah, our GST by default is every quarterly, every 3 months once. Okay. But if let's say your volume is very low, it's minimal, maybe every 6 months once. But for some companies, they do it on a monthly basis because they are import-export company and the cash flow involved is very huge. So it makes more economical sense to actually register for monthly GST filing.
So you're saying I have an option to file monthly if I require refunds? So if I feel that I need to have more refunds, because till the time you don't file, you will not get the refunds?
Correct.
Okay. So that's between the GST point. Any queries on GST?
Yeah, what would be about the SaaS company? So is there a different structure to the SaaS or SaaS?
So,
software service.
So I tell you, the laws are mostly same. So if you are a Singapore company, you are exporting, you are still exporting at 0 rated. zero
Okay.
GST. From India also, when you export, it's zero rated. Within Singapore, you have a 7% flat. The fundamental laws are very similar. When you import, there are reverse on few of the things. With respect to refunds also, the fundamental principles are very similar. As I said, the major two main difference as of now, we don't know, maybe in India also they will have single slab very soon. They might bring in quarterly returns. But as of now, there are two main differences. One is the flat rate of Singapore versus multiple rates in India, plus the compliances in India wherein we need to do on a monthly basis and a quarterly basis, and multiple returns we need to file. Do you need to file multiple returns in India? What happens? We do a output return, we do a input return, and then we do a consolidated return.
Okay, in Singapore, basically, we just do one return with your input and output tax together, consolidated as one, and whether it's a net payable or net claimable position. So only one return.
Okay.
And also, your answer is the startup, right?
Yes.
So there's no special treatment for new startups. It's just that if you happen that your revenue is going to cross the $1 million magical mark, then you have to register it's by default, it's compulsory.
That's okay.
And next topic, I think this is quite, hopefully it's nothing new. Basically, in Singapore, for capital gain, there's no capital gain tax. Be it, let's say you have a fixed asset or your IP rights, which my partner Jerald talked on later. In Singapore, if you transfer all your IP, if you set a base in Singapore and transfer all your IP rights or even purchase a fixed assets, and if, let's say, when you sell off after 5 years later, there won't be any capital gain tax if you make a profit on your IP rights or even your fixed assets.
So the one main reason why most of the companies go to Singapore or move their IP in Singapore or register their IP or register their company, raise funds in Singapore, even though they are very much in India, part of the Indian ecosystem, is because of this. There's no capital gain, so investors would want to pay no taxes or minimal tax when they exit. Because of this reason, because of this single fact, Singapore is also called Delaware of Southeast Asia because you don't have any taxation when you sell. So there is no taxation on capital. There is no taxation on capital profit. On the thought process is that you have already paid taxes when you have incurred that income.
Yes. And actually, one important point to
things, right? So this is why it is very, very important to have a very strong door. There's a different type of doors, right? Can be wood, can be metal. So this is very important. So IP is actually a very important asset, and you can actually create, protect your stuff, maximize the value for your business. Okay, and the reason for using IP is actually more to improve your market position, getting financing, and even take your technology and brands to different parts of the world.
So I have a question on IP, right? That's the slide I want to be on. So when you talk about IP, right, again, when you file for IP in the US, you apply for a patent in the US or anything, right, that doesn't necessarily mean that IP is the governance model that is there, right? So you have to actually go to Europe, again, go there and apply. You're applied at multiple places. So is there a benefit of applying for a patent, let's say, using Singapore as a model? What is the kind of governance? What kind of governance models would that protect a company if they actually apply a patent through Singapore?
Okay, you can apply it in Singapore. Then we have this so-called small court which you can actually do your remedies if you find that any other companies are infringing your IPs.
I'm sorry,
I mean,
there's a dispute resolution
board. There's a dispute resolution center
Singapore
where you can actually see a remedy recourse on any infringement on your IPs also. But most importantly, you must register IP in overseas also.
From applicability perspective, it doesn't make a difference. You still have to go to US, still have to go to Europe and stuff. What Singapore gives is because of the all prestige part of the of the aura that Singapore gives you. When you have an IP registered in Singapore and you are going and applying for you in Europe or US, you have got a preference in terms of the process becomes much more faster as compared to any of the other countries in this part of the world. So even for example, you have an IP with China, you have an IP in any of the other parts of South Asian countries for that part. Singapore gets a preference because of single aspect of the fact that their bylaws that they have from the IP registration perspective makes it much more robust for them, for a European or an American organization to have that. Other than that, you don't get any other benefit.
So plus, as you were talking about, there is a WIP arbitration and mediation center there, which helps to mediate and as you were saying, to resolve and to quickly register. The process and structure is much more in a structured way compared to any other country, and that helps you to register any other country easily. The process becomes
So my
easier.
question was really, the follow-up is, if I get, let's say, if I basically have an IP protection from Singapore, say entity created in Singapore, have IP created in Singapore and so on, what is the governance model? So all of ASEAN countries, do they honor that IP? Is that what it means?
Like what this gentleman said, you have to register your IP in an individual country.
So you still have to register, you have to respect the
That's
Any benefit to you.
So India has to again refile that IP. In India also have to file its own IP.
Yes, you have to file own IPs in India. But why we are so focusing on IP here in this topic is because if you guys have a product or some technology, you want to actually register IP in Singapore or you want to register IP in India, and end up the benefits later on which you are going to dispose or exit to sell off. So your IP rights belonging to India, then you have end up with paying a larger tax. But if your IP rights,
More than tax, what he was referring to is the protection in Singapore.
Yes, the protection in Singapore.
So Indian IP laws are still developing and growing, and they have improved a lot in the last few years. But Singapore IP laws are much more matured in that sense. So that helps you to go global in terms of going in any other country and register quickly.
How long does it take to register an IP?
It depends. Depends on the product or what kind of IP that you're actually applying.
Thumb rule, like we would say that we are taking right now 3 to 4 years in India.
So in India, it takes 3 to 4 years to register. What's the average timeline to register IP?
What kind of IP you're looking at?
yeah, can you give
I,
us?
and it's something on the IP.
Maybe.
It's a code. So I have a unique code. I want to go for an IP. How much time will it take?
Okay, it can be as short as probably within a month. If let's say yours is a very simple thing, and you can even drag on to maybe 6 months or 1 year. So depending on what is the how complicated is your things, because you can tell people that, for example, today I'm in the medical field, I do research, I have a cure for HIV. I tell you that this medicine can give you a cure in HIV. But how guaranteed are you? And they do very extensive research to ensure that this is okay, your work. It's not somebody's work. So it may take even probably extend more than 1 year or 2 years, but at least we still get things done. It's faster than what you have seen in India 3-4 years. So it depending on how complicated is your product or your services or even your technology is.
And to add to that, IP is the next level. First thing is trademark, and trademark is instant.
Yeah, correct.
Actually, on my next slides, there are different types of IP that we actually touch on. So we have patents, mainly on product, process, and technical improvement to the existing technology. We also have trademark, more on goods and services, and copyright, more for computer programs, play and music, and other IPs. Right. So these are the things that we can actually apply for. And on my next slide, I will show you the term of protection. So for different IPs, right, they actually protect. The protection term is actually different. So for patent, for example, will be protected for 20 years, okay, from the date of filing. Like thereafter, you'll be maintained yearly, starting from 5th year onwards. Okay, and for trademark, it's a bit different. Once the trademark is registered, you're actually protected for 10 years. Then you will renew upon expiry. Then for design-wise, it's a bit different. You are protected for initial 5 years. Thereafter, you renew every 5 years. Then copyright is, again, it varies. So it can go all the way up to 70 years. And the IP is essentially case-by-case basis.
Actually, just to add on, basically, it's, in Singapore, right? If you have some of your copyrights or even your trademarks, you can actually earn money out of even your copyrights. Because, for instance, for music is a very common thing these days. We have, for us, Chinese singers from Hong Kong, all the karaoke joints in Singapore, whenever anyone who goes into a karaoke joint to sing, you have to pay additional fees for this so-called copyright fees like this. Yeah, just to pay, and somebody will actually collect from you. And let's say if today you run an entertainment business with singing facilities inside, some lawyers will actually send you a letter saying that, oh, you have to pay this copyright. You can demand such thing. But some will ignore you. But if you take legal actions, you can actually claim back all your copyright fees also. So there's actually pro and cons. You may have incurred some costs, but you can actually recover back through some such avenues as through your lawyers.
So I have a question here. With the current government of India now coming up with a regulation to have payment informations to be stored in India, uploaded with the deadline for that, the direction that we expect the thing to happen, that it will start off with payment information right now, and in the future it will move on to other data privacy laws as well, data privacy part for that. How do you see that impacting the positioning?
You mean a privacy law?
Yeah, from privacy law perspective, in terms of data storage in the country, right? I'm sure you're aware, right? Government of India has come up with this, that payment companies which are dealing with consumer information, they will have to store the data in India itself, and the timeline for that is also, right? Now, the way how we can read this is, it starts off with payment information, and maybe in future, another 1 year, 2 years down the line, they might talk about having the entire data privacy perspective for that part, right? So in that situation, do you see this positioning that we are having right now from a Singapore perspective for Indians to go and Indian organizations to go and set that up and taking advantage of all this, getting impacted in some form? Is it short-lived? If I will ask you the question directly.
Which one? The IP laws?
From a perspective of the whole benefit that we are seeing.
Okay, you are talking about privacy.
Data privacy.
Let me answer that. In India, there was no laws with respect to privacy. But Singapore is doing businesses with all the countries globally. And Singapore is not attractive only for India. It is attractive for US also, still. It's attractive for UK also, for Australia also, with GDPR. Still, Singapore is attractive for UK also. So, I think if there are some policy which preserves our privacy, that only helps us. But I really don't see that will have any impact on Singapore being less attractive to us. You can give that example of the co-founder of Facebook. They have actually
he moved from his US citizenship to the Singapore citizen. Reason being is safe access.
So what I'm trying to tell you is that that's a different perspective we're bringing in. But globally there are already policies. I mean, does the GDPR stops UK or businesses from UK to go and invest in Singapore? No. Does the UK investors don't go to Singapore because US has strong?
It's not about stopping. The point was, with these kind of laws coming in.
Okay, I think let me correct you. You're asking more on the privacy issue, right? Privacy Act, right?
Yes, data privacy perspective.
Okay.
Because all of these things would typically also get included in that.
GDPR and IPs are two separate matters, and it really doesn't.
No, I'm not talking about IP here. I'm talking
He's talking about a general
from a generic data privacy perspective.
Is that if India becomes more structured and more law-abiding from a data perspective, will that impact will that impact Singapore as a country? That's what you're trying to tell?
Yeah, in terms of
this
perspective.
But still, Indian businesses in percentage terms is nothing in Singapore. Still.
Let me answer something. Right now, most of the Singapore companies hosting in USA, isn't it? Their data is in USA. Okay, so the similar way you will host in India. So that is not going to change. Okay, in European market, so for the financial stuffs, so you have to store the data in Europe zone, isn't it? So AWS has a Europe zone facility, so you just move into those data into that. So that's going to be there. So every country is being very strict about all those things. So that would be there. So that won't change.
Just one more thing, maybe in Singapore we have a privacy act called PDPA. Yeah, it's something similar to the European act also. Yeah, just the PDPA, it really protects you, and I think if you want, you can offhand you can actually say some data also on PDPA. Yeah, the lady.
But there are things like SOC ones and those things that has tied up. So right now, if in GDPR also, okay. So if you are in US, if you are hosting in USA, and if you have SOC one, those things, so you can still have. So those kind of data. So those agreements will come in to picture. So and most probably most of the people would, most of the countries would be okay, just okay having the data in USA. So that might be.
Till the time we get something for free, we will close our eyes and say agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Singapore is not yet been recognized by European Commission pertaining to GDPR. So is there any upcoming amendment to Singapore data privacy laws which will actually facilitate
Okay, we
that?
can't really speak on this issue, but I know of how GDPR works. Unless you have dealing with European companies, then you will be subject to the GDPR laws. But if you have no dealings with European companies, then the GDPR may not be effective on your.
Yeah, but since Singapore is strategically placed, if
Yes,
you
correct.
want to do business both in East and West,
Correct.
so if it is GDPR compliant, it would be easier. So is there any upcoming amendments? I'm just asking whether there is any.
Well, at the moment, not that we know of. Yeah, but if there is, then the government will send us memos to update us, and these are the changes. Yeah.
Okay.
And rest assured, if you point to us, we'll be updated for you because the government enforce service providers in Singapore to be attend for your continuous professional applications.
Okay, thank you.
Should we go on? Yeah. So I think Alok have already shared just now. We actually have this WIPO arbitration and mediation center. Why only global provider in the world? It's actually established in 2010. Why only place that's out of Geneva? And this place is actually used to resolve disputes when it comes to IP. Okay, then next.
You want to give an offer?
You do it. You're a boss.
So Kenneth is giving an offer for registering in Singapore, and they're giving a 3 months free service for nominee directorship, registered office, and company secretaryship. That's right? Yeah. So anyone if they want to register in Singapore, they can contact us. Any Q&A? No, this is for nominee directorship, registered office. Because these are perpetual services which will go on year to year if you do not have a local director there, or registered office, or a company secretary there.
Annual cost or monthly cost?
That's written there.
That is the savings.
Yeah, savings,
What is the
right?
cost?
810 Singapore dollars is what we save. From what?
So that's for 3 months, so you can calculate. But we are transparent to tell you to register a company in Singapore. If it's just IT company and there are no complications as such, there are no investors involved, no critical agreements, I think we can register for around 40 to 4300, including the nominee directorship.
This is basically what you're saying is the fee that are there for these services.
Yeah.
What is saving of the
Yeah.
fee? Because registering doesn't cost much out there. Right?
Registering
So
doesn't
fees
cost
are-
much if you have a nominee director. Because
Correct.
nominee directorship is a cost.
Basically, why that you may think that how come the nominee director is so expensive? But let me give you a much more clarity issue. Mainly, number one is the local resident director bears a lot of risk. In the event that you guys commit any fraud or any crime, and you guys are totally uncontactable, the local resident director take up the blame for you guys, and we have to attend to the police case, the court case, and the money we collect from you is actually to protect our directors by buying indemnity insurance also. In the event that there's some creditors catching up, and we have to answer for it too.
Yeah. So what is the cost after the first 3 months?
Okay, I think Alok can give
So
you.
this is not first 3 months. So
Yeah.
and to run a company, basic compliances, no withholding, no GST, no audit, because audit is mandatory only when you touch 10 million.
Okay, in Singapore, maybe let me give you a brief idea how it works for audit. For new startups, usually you guys will by default qualify as an exempted private limited company. But basically, what it means, if you have no corporate shareholders, and also the criteria, there are 3 criteria. One is your annual revenue is less than 10 million based on each 12 months of financial year, and you have no fixed assets of more than 10 million, or no employees more than 50 employees. Out of these 3 conditions, if you meet 2 of these, you automatically qualify for as an exempted private limited company.
But the difference is that the audit in Singapore is very different from the way we get books of accounts audited in India by a chartered accountant. It's much more costly. So other than the audit, other than the GST and withholding, again to run a company, including nominee directors, would be around 40 to 4,300 annually.
Thank you.
So I think with this, any other Q&A? Any questions?
Yeah, I had asked for the visa. So
Yeah, you can give
visa.
an answer for visa.
Yeah,
So you can just give a brief about kinds of visas.
If we get the company made over there,
Yeah.
we get an visa, multiple entry visas and all are peaceful because otherwise it's.
So you can give them a brief about the
Okay,
different kinds of
for a
visas.
start, can I check with you? Your multiple entries is, do you want to be permanent in Singapore for longer than 30 days or
That's
short?
the one thing.
Okay,
If we have a company over there, we don't know, we'll be going up and down, right?
yes, correct. Okay, if you want to travel frequently, I would suggest you get an employment pass in Singapore so that you can stay there beyond 30 days. Let's say you intend to stay for one shot, 3 months.
As a company owner also, I have an employment pass.
Okay, as a company, your owner, you can, you never have to work with, you never have to have an employment pass if you decide to work in the company permanently in Singapore for more than 30 days.
So let me simplify for you. If you want to go regularly and work there, you need to have an employment pass. There are criteria to have employment pass visa. That is minimum of 4,000
Yeah, the salary is around 3,000 plus or 4,000.
That's one visa. The other visa is entrepreneur visa. Again, if you want to have an entrepreneur visa, your company should be funded by VCs and there are criteria. What we suggest, if you do not want to completely move to Singapore and have a permanent residency there, you can still be a director and you don't really require an employment visa. You can still go on social
on a social visit pass for 4 weeks, 28 days. Like he has a business visa for 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you want to be, you want to move to Singapore permanently, maybe after 3-4 years, it's always advisable to work on employment visa or try to have an entrepreneur visa. That answers your question?
Any more questions?
Suppose if I register a company in India, then I want to transfer to Singapore, but I want to run a business in India. What kind of taxes I need to pay in India? Dual taxes I need to pay in Singapore and India?
I think we can take it offline because this is case specific, and you can connect with us and we can answer this. I think let's close this session now because we need to get ready for the investor panel.
Okay.
And anyone can contact us if you need to have anything with regard to Singapore, India. And thanks, Kenneth, thanks Jerald for this. It really helped us to have more knowledge about Singapore.